Friends, today we are immersing ourselves in the songbook of the Bible, right there in the middle of the text, the Psalms, that speak of every kind of emotion, from great triumph and joy, celebration, come into his courts with thanksgiving and praise, to lament and sadness and even anger. The songbook of God's people. We're also immersing ourselves in the songbook of our people, our old favorite hymns today. We started this morning with Psalm 91 as our call to worship, which is the inspiration for Martin Luther's lyrics to "A Mighty Fortress is Our God." Our scripture reading today are Psalms. Psalm 42 speaks a personal address of sadness. "Why are you cast down, O my soul?" writes the psalmist. I wonder if any of you have souls that are cast down these days. But Psalm 126 speaks of a community's sadness in a time of exile. Following the sermon, we will turn to God in prayer, leaning into the peace of God as we return home to God, singing together, "It is well with my soul." And then we'll bring our offerings, singing "Bringing in the Sheaves," which we just heard, if you had ears to hear, in Psalm 126. We'll be living into the hoped-for joy of that psalm. And we'll close with "Blessed be the tie that binds," as we bless one another before going out into the world as we depart from this fellowship. Here on this third Sunday of our sermon series, Fruit, Fully Abiding in God's Love, we are serving up some comfort food as a way of accessing memory and hope that bear the spiritual fruit of joy and peace. I invite you to come home today, to abide in familiar words and familiar songs, seeds that were planted in many of you long ago, so that you may gather a plentiful harvest as you make your way home to joy and peace. The writer of Psalm 42 speaks of their thirst for God as the deer thirsts for a flowing stream. This parched deer thirst is exacerbated by memory, the memory of leading a throng to worship. Haven't we, O church, been cast down, thirsty for the days when people thronged to church? But then the writer remembers it's not the throng that matters, but hope in God. "Why are you cast down, O my soul?" Return home to God. Return home to hope. Memory and hope tell the psalmist that help will come again, as it always does. We Reformed folk, in our tradition, we read across the biblical text. What is the big story? What's the theme? What's the through line? We generally eschew proof texting by taking one little verse out of Scripture out of context to prove our point. No, we read across the text. And what is the through theme? It is creation, destruction, and recreation, gathering, scattering, and gathering again, abundance and scarcity, and abundance again, birth, life, death, and resurrection. These are the through lines of our sacred text. So when our souls are cast down within us, we remember you. We remember God when we are cast down, anxious, worried, fearful, angry, we remember our home in God. Psalm 42, if you have that text open in front of you, you will notice that it begins with thirst. And then the psalmist remembers God, and the waters start flowing. Do you see that? There is a dry stream bed at the beginning of this psalm, and then the waters start flowing, and not just a little bit. From the Jordan Valley, from Mount Hermon, from Mount Mizar, the landscape of home reminds the psalmist of the mighty cataract, streams, waves, billows of God's steadfast love. At night, the psalmist writes, God's song is with me, a prayer to the God of my life. So I ask you, what songs are with you in the night? What songs do we sing to each other? What songs are we singing to our babies that they will sing to their babies? What songs will they sing when they have grown old and have even forgotten the names of their friends? What songs do we sing with each other? Last week, something happened. Twice. Lament turned into a spontaneous chorus of joy. First time it happened, it was at Brown Bags and Books, a Wednesday a week ago. We were discussing the potential of peace in older adults. But we also noted a sadness that often as we grow older, peace eludes us. In response to this conversation, Susie Holloway reminded us of a story of a boy who played with a dragon when he was young. But that when he got older, he stopped visiting the dragon, and the dragon grew sad. Well, Susie didn't like this ending, and as Susie often does, she writes her own endings that end up in a better place. And so she shared an additional verse to this song with us about a little boy grown old who goes back to visit the dragon, and they are together again in joy. When Susie got to the chorus, 12 of the 15 folks around the table joined in like it was one of those flash mobs you sometimes see. We who had been around in the 1970s joined in singing, Puff the magic dragon lived by the sea and frolicked in the autumn mist in the land called Hanali. Thank you for helping my breaking voice there at the end. Beautiful. Each of us who sang along had a memory of that song from when we were younger. I'm seeing some blank faces out there, so just stay with me. And the world seemed much more innocent and carefree. I remember my mom had this beautiful book on the piano at home. It was spiral bound and had a green cover, and it had all sorts of songs in it. And this was one of the ones that we would request. She would turn to that page, and she would play, and my sisters and I would sing along. But for the folks who were born in the 1990s and later, who actually extend our Wednesday evening gatherings into new generations, it must have been a very strange experience. I hope this experience is a story they will enjoy telling as much as I do. A wave of song bringing memory and hope to this generation and the next. A similar thing happened when I went to visit Holly Hubbard in Greenwood Rehab this week. She gave me permission to tell this story. She had asked about my children, and I caught her up on everyone, and I might have lamented that college students are very expensive these days. But I also said they really bring a great deal of joy. And so Holly extended her beautiful, graceful hands and said this, expense, joy. Expense, joy. And every time she repeated and every time she extended her hand, this hand that weighed out expense stayed level. And this hand that weighed out joy went up and up and up until she burst into song saying, "Joy to the world, all you boys and girls. Joy to the fishes in the deep blue sea. Joy to you and me." Still some blank faces out there, you guys. Right. Yes. Again, you of a certain generation are taken back to your memories to a place and time of joy. A memory that can offer hope. And as one gave words back to me that I offered, a collective effervescence. Now, we know that the good old days, whether they were days of the first temple glory, as we read about in Psalm 42, or the 1970s that gave rise to Puff the Magic Dragon or Jeremiah Was a Bullfrog, or the days when churches were packed full, were not entirely perfect, were they? No. I won't drag us down by their imperfections, but I will say that there were seeds planted by people with tears on their faces that are being harvested even now as sources of joy, hope, and peace. And I recognize that these songs we've sung and will sing here today, and the words we have chosen for worship today, because they were familiar to many who have grown up in the church, are foreign to some of you as Puff the Magic Dragon was to our 20 and 30-year-olds on Wednesday night. But it is my hope that in the time that we spend in this household of God with each other, with this family of faith, rooted in these words of God, that they will come to feel like home for you, like comfort food, like wave upon wave of God's steadfast love. But not just that. New songs and new stories are being told here every single day at Westminster. New songs are being learned. You who are new among us are bringing your memories of God's steadfast love, of joy and abundance, and you are telling them to us so that they can become part of our story, that they might lead us into hope and peace and joy. Together we are writing new stories and learning new songs, planting seeds that future generations will harvest with joy as they come home to God's steadfast love. Maybe a home they have never known before. And so this is my challenge to us today. How are we planting seeds of songs and words, old and new, in the next generation? Today, after church, our Nurture and Education ministry team will be meeting in the choir room just behind me. This team oversees the spiritual formation of the children of God in our church, from the smallest infant in the nursery to the oldest elder in the nursing home. They provide for safe spaces for learning and growing. They select, or in some cases even write, the curriculum that feeds bodies, minds, and souls of young and old, women and men. The meeting is open to any who would come. We hope you will join us if you wish. On our mind in this meeting today, of particular interest to us, is the preparing of our nursery to welcome Grace Esme when she comes to church. Ways to nurture many young adults and college students who are nesting with us. Nurturing our middle and high school students and our beloved ones with special needs. These are top of mind today. We have found memory and hope abiding joy and peace in these songs, in these words, how will we pass them on to the next generation so they can harvest them with joy? And how will we join them in singing a new song, in telling new stories, so that in ages to come, when the words are about lament, a surprising chorus will arise, a prayer to the God of our life. Friends, the world needs seed planters. Is that you?